Now, welcome along, Bits and Bobs, coming at you on a Monday. Happy to say Conor McKeown is here. Conor, hello again.
Hey, Joe.
And hello for the first time in 4 weeks to Will Slattery. Will.
Hi, Joe.
You're back.
Did you miss me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Of course we missed
I
you.
believe you.
On and off the pitch, you were missed. But it's good to have you back.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back.
Do you care to explain your absence to the listeners? It's up to you.
I'm a father now.
Whew.
So I'm much more mature,
What a moment.
kind of
Change your perspective.
gravitas.
Change your perspective is the line they go with in golfing coverage.
Well,
Anytime he holds it, he just has a change your perspective now.
within 24 hours of his birth, I was sitting in Hollis Street with a laptop watching Joe Schmidt's Australia beat South Africa in Ellis Park. So my perspectives are dueling. They're dueling at the moment. My wife was asleep, so I wasn't forcing her to watch it as well.
How's it all going?
It's going pretty well. Yeah. To be fair, I'd asked you a couple of times for advice, and you gave me some tips, and it's going well. It's going well. Like, it's funny. It's such an adjustment. You know what? The strangest thing was, like, this Saturday. It was kind of the first weekend. We were like, my weekend's not my own. You know. It was like we had to just kind of we still had a good time. We had to like plan it around having keeping this person alive as well. So yeah, no, it's.
He only watched 15 sporting events over the weekend.
Well,
He's shook.
I didn't want to say it, but I did notice Will tweeting very soon after the baby was born
Yeah.
about absolutely just not on the Richter scale rugby stuff. And I was like, no, Will, you're doing this wrong.
I was doing the maths. I think you were tweeting about rugby in the first hour of this child's life.
Me building my personal brand. There's nothing more important for this child than me building my personal brand. How am I going to pay for things?
That's fair.
Without a prominent profile. It's easy for you to say, Joe, but for me, I'm building my brand.
That's fair.
In years to come, when all of our data, the full extent of how our data footprint is being recorded and regurgitated, and as a way to remember us, our children look at all the stuff we did, your child will be saying, but hang on, that's the day that I was... What do you mean the Waratahs had
A lot of people have said to me, it did cross my mind that a lot of people knew I had a child that day or the day before or whatever, and I was like, geez, are people going to think less of me? But I was, I need the
He's building his brand.
I need to build the brand.
What advice would you give new father?
Oh, just get out of the house as much as you can. When you go to the shop, only get a small thing of milk, and because it means that you'll be sent to the shop again quicker. Because I do distinctly remember just kind of sitting in my car around the corner, just staring off into the middle distance. You're still in the little afterglow stage.
Yeah, the
really.
honeymoon phase.
The kind of murderous rage stage is yet to come.
Do you know what's immensely satisfying? We took our first trip on Dublin bus the other day. Evicting someone from the seat so you can put the buggy in is great.
That's what you want to do.
Because the person is just like, oh, Jesus, and like kind of shimmying away, and you're just like, I'm taking this.
Oh, you're those kind of pair. You're straight up and Adam and into the public domain. But I think we didn't leave the house for quite a long while afterwards.
I went for 2 pints in O'Donoghue's on Saturday. Brought him in.
Oh my!
Tweeting away.
Tweeting away. Asked the barman, will you mind this baby? I have to send this tweet.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, like Biarritz were playing against Toulouse. Like,
Oh dear. I can't work out with you, Conor, if your tortured parent thing is a bit or if it's how you feel.
Well, I'm at the far end of it now. So when they say that you have perspective, I think there is a survival coping mechanism that kicks in that convinces you that it's all bliss and honey at the very start. And then when you see it from reverse, you go, Jesus, that was pretty grim. It's just the sleep. It really is the sleep. It's very difficult to get through.
How's your sleep situation?
It's been great. I actually feel great.
Oh, you're one of those guys.
I actually feel embarrassed when people ask me, I was asleep. I'm like,
That's okay.
great. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
No, I was very tired at the weekend, but that's because I got up to watch Australia-Argentina at 5 on my own time. It had nothing to do with the baby.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing how it all goes over the years ahead. Will the perspective change?
Yeah, it will.
Okay, a couple of things. This is just a quick mention. Don't worry, we won't dwell on this because Will and I went through David Carell's Friday briefing, as it was now. Friday briefing to the media. But this is just apropos of nothing kind of a thing. Hi, Joe and lads. I won't read out this person's name. I know you're probably sick to death of talking about Irish football, as am I. That's what made me keep reading. But I just wanted to give you a perspective from a primary school teacher. I teach in a large Dublin 15 school, approximately 650 students in one of the biggest soccer areas in Dublin. Every Tuesday and Thursday, A coach from the local GAA team comes to do lessons with classes. Not once has the FAI contacted us or set up workshops, despite me emailing them on numerous occasions. Bows do great work in the community, however, they haven't quite reached our school yet. Myself and a few friends signed up to do the FAI EPV course, only for it to be cancelled a week before it was due to take place. I know this may seem irrelevant, but if we want to create footballers, I believe you do need to start in schools. I always think back to Damien Duff's quote where he said kids simply don't have the ball at their feet enough in this country. Serious money needed to be pumped into football, and coaches need to visit schools, just like the GAA, if we ever want to produce our own. Dominic Soboslai. Many thanks, lads.
I thought Dominic Zoboslai was the sign-off there.
No.
It's a fair point, though, because, really, when you think about it, to have really good people, athletes and sports people, the idea that you're 2 nights training a week is what kind of makes you as a kid. It's not. Like, it's all the time that you're spending away from it,
It's also, this is the chance to get those kids hooked on your sport. Not that we want to create a turf war that early and they can play all sports, but that's an aspect to it as well. I have a friend who I played football. I always called it soccer growing up. With, and we're kind of soccer mad. Kids always going to play soccer, and he's a couple of years ahead of me now in terms of child rearing. And so he brought his kid to the local soccer team and to the local GAA team, and like his heart's kind of broken. He's saying, the GAA, there seem to be 1 million parents around. They seem to have 1 million cones, 1 million footballs. Everything's just like done so well. And I bring him to the soccer training, and there's a couple of lads doing their best. Limited resources. It just feels a little bit tired. And I can see which way the wind is blowing. I'm going to have a GAA footballer, and I don't want a GAA footballer. I wanted a soccer player. But it was just a snapshot on the ground, one area in the Kildare area. So it's just very worrying. This is the problem. They're 40 million in debt. They're making a third of their staff redundant.
And is that something that they should be doing? Obviously, you want them in an ideal world, but
I don't know.
Is that what should be done?
I don't know.
Should FAI be sending coaches into every school in the country? Like, that's not.
They need to be doing something. Like, there's the football pathway plan, and that's all been teased out. And fine. So if a part of that is getting coaches into schools, fine. If it's not, fine. But what are they doing? Is the big question. What are they doing?
I always got this impression from playing both sports, kind of growing up, like soccer in this country, particularly in Dublin, is a very sort of atomized thing. Like, you have a lot more clubs, and they're much smaller, and they're relying on lesser facilities. And you have different kind of like it goes back to this thing about the summer soccer, the thing the FAI tried to bring in, and it was effectively kibosh because certain leagues didn't like it.
They're still trying. David Corral said it Friday. It is happening.
Yeah, but I suppose my point about this is it's not that the GAA is like some sort of testament to great sort of administrative propriety, but it does work in the kind of almost feudal democracy that they have, because the people at the top level are appointed by the people at the bottom level, and then when the people who are entrusted to kind of come up with a system that's going to benefit the entire GAA, all the units take their kind of lead from that. Like, you would never have a situation where something as fundamental as bringing an entire calendar into sync would be, Longford couldn't come along and say, we're not going to do that, or Roscommon or whatever. And in that sort of situation, you can understand why it's hard for the FAI, because they don't really have a grasp. They have all these kind of units that have their own level of power and their own kind of autonomy, which I'm sure works for them. But I'd say in the more holistic sense of an overall picture for the sport in this country, I'd say it's more of a hindrance than a help.
Oh, it's a massive hindrance. Anyway, I just want to read out that mail. It's a small microcosm in Blanchardstown, but GAA aren't at the schools, FAI nowhere to be seen. Dear lads, long time, first time. I'll get to it. Paid managers are violating the ethos of GAA, but has the Irish sporting media done enough to expose them? If real journalism is about exposing the truth, as inconvenient as it might be, why can't our sporting broadcasters, journalists, ask managers on air, are you getting paid? The silence reminds me of the great Seamus Heaney in his poem, Say Nothing, O land of password, hand grip, wink and nod. Didn't need to tell you that quite well. Is there a dereliction of duty here, or are journalists complicit in concealing the cancer of our sacred amateur organisation? Nobody is asking our elite managers if they're receiving under-the-table payments. Secondly, why can't we just send revenue? after the culprits. Looking forward to your discussion. Amazing podcast, Austin.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point, and I don't know that journalists are complicit, because if you say complicit, you're kind of saying that there's some sort of benefit on the part of the media to be part of this overall charade. The issue becomes is like, if my job for next week was to uncover a definite example of somebody getting paid for managing a team, like to get to the point where you would be able to publish the story with names and details and all the rest of it, like you have to get confirmation from people who are, and you never would, you know what I mean? But like, it's so, it goes on so much that people talk about it almost openly. So, I mean, I don't really know that it's necessarily the media's kind of fault that we have this kind of doublespeak that goes on. Like the GAA is the ultimate power here, and it is totally in breach of their laws. But until they get a handle on it kind of centrally, I'm not exactly sure what putting managers on the spot and asking them would do, because within that there's all sorts of shade of grey as to managers getting paid, coaches getting paid, which of them is legal, which isn't. You're claiming for legitimate expenses. You know, if you can claim for mileage for 4 times a week, but you stay up wherever you're going twice a week and the mileage is still legitimate, you know, is that still paying for players? So I totally get the point. I do get the point. But I suppose when you get into the nitty gritty of it, and it's so commonplace as well, like it's just, you know, it is really, really everywhere. And I don't know where you would even start at that.
Would you have a sense of whether it's mostly doctored expenses and therefore compliant with the revenue versus there's a big bag of cash in your boot?
I don't know how you do the big bag of cash thing anymore. I really don't. Yeah. But I do know, sort of anecdotally, from people who would probably have a sharp enough sense of this, that some inter-county managers do actually make tax returns, you know, and they put down inter-county manager on it. I'm not sure why that would be any different in a legal sense, like in a sort of a tax law sense, than being a GAA coach. It doesn't. I'm sure that there are no delineations there. So it's only with the GAA that the difference between paying your head coach and paying your manager, that there's some sort of, that there is a law there where one of them transgresses it and the other one doesn't.
And it could just take one big story to uncover this whole thing. You know, John Delaney comes to mind. Like, you know, people always would have said, oh, is there, you know, things in the FAI that people should be looking at? One big story erupted and then this house of cards came tumbling down. Like, you know, it could be one manager gets done and then that opens up a can of worms. But the emailer's right. Like, for something that everyone would acknowledge is allegedly this outrageously big issue, oh, it's all widespread all over the country. Is there a single manager that's been publicly kind of linked with actually being paid? I don't know, privately we all probably know of names, but no one's ever had a story yet.
Publicly, no.
Oh.
No.
But every management team at inter-county level is like, there's a cost for the inter-county management team, whether that's the fees or the rates that are being charged by additional personnel, and then some of that money goes towards the manager in certain situations.
Yeah, I think expenses is
expenses tends to be the thing. Like if you charge mileage coming in here, but you also have a fuel card, like you're pocketing the mileage. But so in that sense, is that, you know, this is what I'm talking about. There's all kinds of different ways, and then there's things organised by supporters clubs and they end up paying the managers. But like I have wondered a lot, and I do know people who well enough who have been inter-county managers in the past, and I have kind of asked them, you know, like, how does this happen? How do you go about it? But it's just everywhere. You know, it is kind of everywhere, that it's like we're so far past the sticking the finger in the dike territory.
It's an interesting point though, Austin. Lads, it's gone so bad I wasn't even looking forward to the anger of Keane and Neville post-match. Usually that somehow helps the healing process. There's a satisfaction in at least watching them tear the club apart. Makes me feel better. Even they're not fired up anymore. 3-0 defeat to City, par for the course. Spare a thought for my son, born in 08, doesn't remember 2013. He really is a long-suffering United fan, says Ed, the United fan. Well, in percentage terms of his life, he is, yeah.
It's comical there's now children like that, though, who grew up and have, like, no memories of any success. Yeah. Like, so that would be 17?
Yeah.
That's old enough, like, to have been really in the doldrums.
17 and his team's been crap his whole life in so much as he can remember.
I just like I really, really love Ruben Amorim's sort of. It seems to be that he's waiting for the tactical wheel to turn so that every other team in the Premiership starts to play in such a way that his very stubborn system suddenly becomes effective against. Because I tuned in for a little while yesterday, and other than trying to get Mbeumo into space pretty quickly, they just they seem very, very inept.
Yeah, we talked about it in the football pod with Jonathan Wilson, and even amongst ourselves. Where do you start? 31 points in 31 league games is stunningly bad, you know. 8 wins in those 31 games. And he has a system where the players aren't suited to it. And also it was striking listening to some of the pundits breaking it down afterwards. And Bruno Fernandes in particular, who was like calling out his defensive line for not stepping into midfield when they should. Not brave enough was the way he put it. It's a system which is very like intricate and like needs you at this moment. You have to step in there and I have to step around here, and there's a lot of moving parts to it, and none of them are quite sold on it, you feel. So the best case for Amorim at this stage in terms of keeping him around is they've started. I've started, so I'll finish. But how they can't just let this keep happening.
I love Jonathan's stat that only one team since 1963 has won the league playing the system.
Oh yeah,
Antonio Conte's Chelsea.
yeah.
And as he outlined, they had very much suited players to that system.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, they'd Kante in midfield. United have Casemiro huffing around. Bruno Fernandes as a defensive 6 away from home. This is not going to work.
Yeah. It's almost like the club that was like couldn't get any worse. Hired a manager who just like he's not making the best of a bad situation. That's probably the you know, like if Jose Mourinho was suddenly reappointed tomorrow, he'd at least like draw a few games.
They'd win games.
Yeah.
I know.
There was some stat as well that of the teams, if you take out the teams that were promoted this year and the teams that were relegated last year, since Amorim, so the 17 teams that have been there since Amorim was appointed, United are dead last at 17 places.
Yeah,
now.
last.
That's
Worst,
impressive.
worst team.
That
The
is-
worst team in the league the last 2 years.
That's good going, isn't it?
Yeah. The game at the Etihad overshadowed by the death of Ricky Hatton. Terrible, shocking news. Dead at the age of just 46. He was found by police in his home in Manchester Sunday morning. He hadn't attended a fight or a function on Friday, and so his friends thought that was a bit unusual and they were worried. And so by Sunday, his body was discovered. Greater Manchester Police spokesperson, there are not currently believed to be any suspicious circumstances. And so it's very sad. Incredibly likeable fella. Won 45 of his 48 professional bouts during a 15-year career. All action, man of the people. Famously would like balloon up in between fights, in between camp. I always remember, you know, you'd see him on like Sky News after a big win. The next day, the next morning, in his local, interviewed outside with a pint and saying, "I am going to just have a great time for the next few months." And his friends outside, "Go on, Ricky," you know, he's that kind of a character. And then it got to a point where when he was fighting Mayweather, 30,000 fans travelled over. It was, you know, he really caught the imagination. So shocking, really. There was the stuff behind the scenes, I suppose, which, you know, people are touching on again because it was a core part of that documentary he made 2 years ago, Hatton, which is on Sky, was really, really good. But from kind of 2012 to 19, estranged from his parents, and then there was a reconciliation in 19, but it seems like the documentary coming out in 23 stirred everything up again. And in short, it was just about money. So Billy Graham, his coach, alleged that he wasn't paid for the Mayweather fight, for instance, that he was down $500,000. Pointed the finger very much at Ray, Ricky's father. Ricky took the side of Ray. I think there was a settlement there eventually, but like there was a very kind of uneasy truce in 19. Then this all came up again in 23. Big falling out again. I'm not sure whether there was a reconciliation. Don't get the impression there was based on the reports I've read. So he talked in the documentary about that being, you know, major source of pain, hitting rock bottom. Very, very serious mental health problems. You know, there's clips of him talking about you got to reach out and got to get help. And he was due to fight again in Dubai, so there was maybe a sense, I don't know, he was doing okay, and yeah, just very kind of vivacious character. So dead at 46.
It's hard to think of a boxer that didn't really make any kind of enemies in the public sphere anyway. Like he he was never the bad guy for any of his fights. He was genuinely universally loved. There was an absolute blue collar sort of nature to him. He used to go down to the ring to Blue Moon, the Manchester City anthem, and I watched that documentary on Sky, and it was really good. And it was really good in a way that none of the glitzy Netflix documentaries are, in that it was quite dark, and it wasn't overdoing it. You could tell. I think one of the big British tabloids did a bit of a hatchet job on him the time that he was outed as a cocaine user, and like that's never good for your, for an athlete's PR or whatever. But it did seem to be that the public nature of the outing of him hit him so hard, hit him so hard, and it felt like, I remember listening to interviews with Hatton afterwards, and he was talking about all the people that he had let down. And I think he felt the pressure of his own popularity in a way, but that only endeared him more to people, that he had that human side. And I spoke to Eamon McGee earlier on, who fought Hatton in 2002 in the MEN Arena, and he was actually the first boxer to put Hatton down. He knocked him down after 40 seconds in the first round. But he had great time for Hatton. Had same sort of background in a lot of ways. Struggled with an awful lot of the same kind of demons. And in much the same way as that expose, I think, took it out of Hatton, I think his 2 defeats to Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao really, really hurt him too. And you could see in the documentary it wasn't quite so much. I mean, Floyd Mayweather's maybe the greatest fighter of all time. So what's the shame in losing there? But you could see that Hatton took it all on his shoulders, that 30,000 people come to Las Vegas to see the fight.
Well, it was after that defeat that he parted ways with Billy Graham.
And then he had Mayweather's father in his corner.
Which was a disaster. The camp was a disaster. I mean, a disaster.
And even the way he was knocked out with that check hook from Manny Pacquiao, there was something very final about that.
Because of his 48 fights, 45 wins.
Yeah.
And yet, in some respects, terrible thing to say, but like, if you say to me Ricky Hatton, the first thing I see is the Mayweather fight, and losing that one for a guy who won obviously the vast majority of his fights.
He was such a cultural force around that time. Like that Mayweather fight, I'd still would say it's the biggest fight in my, I suppose, cultural sphere. Like, obviously Tyson Fury's from the UK as well, and he's been involved in heavyweight unification bouts, but I don't think it caught the imagination of the sporting public the way Hatton Mayweather did. Like, that was absolutely huge. I remember everyone I knew, no interest in boxing, wanted to watch that fight. It was an unbelievable time for him and for boxing, and that's the first thing I thought of actually when I saw he died, is remembering like the 24/7 documentary and the build up that HBO did, Mayweather and Hatton, such a contrast of guys, and it was just it's really sad.
But you couldn't fake the human side of Ricky Hatton, even the stuff about ballooning up in between. Like, people love to see a fella, he'd be sitting there posing for a picture with his like full English breakfast sort of in front of him.
And he really did balloon up.
Yeah, it was a genuine thing. He went up to sort of 11.5 stone or something like that, miles over his fighting weight. But clearly, like, that takes its toll. Like, you can be sure that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao weren't eating beans and sausages in between their fights.
I remember the day after he lost to Mayweather, it was the BBC Sports Personality of the Year Awards, and they had him beamed in from Las Vegas, poolside in Las Vegas, these big sunglasses on, covering his battered face and like a pint, and like Joe Calzaghe was there with him, and it was just a real scene of, like, I suppose how he switched off when he wasn't fighting.
Yeah. So look, there's no silver lining there. 46, really, really terrible, really terrible. Elsewhere, just seen as we're on boxing, big shout out to Aoife O'Rourke, who won gold at the World Boxing Championships in Liverpool, defeated a Turkish fighter. 5-0 unanimous decision, won all 3 rounds. 2 world champions, by the way. Her sister Lisa won light middleweight in Istanbul 3 years ago. So that is phenomenal. Lewis Crocker beat Paddy Donovan. Controversial split decision is how it's been talked about at Windsor Park. Donovan was put down twice, which I suppose gave the judges the opportunity. And then the other judge had it 115 to 111 in his favour. He was the busier fighter, the more dominant fighter, but Lewis Crocker was given the decision. And Terence Crawford beat Canelo Alvarez in Vegas. So the first boxer to win undisputed titles at 3 different weights in the modern era, unbeaten across 42 fights. So there's a lot of boxing on over the weekend. To switch tack, we'll probably check in again with Sinead at some point. But she chatted to Anna Caplis post-match after Ireland's World Cup quarter-final defeat against France. It's in your feed. It was there immediately post-match. 13 points to 18. I mean, it was like such a dramatic game. Ireland 13-0 up at half-time. Right before half-time, 35 phases. That would have been a crucial score to get. Wind against them in the second half. Don't score in the second half. France score a breakaway try to take the lead. And then Ireland at the death. Like, there's a maul at one stage, which is really motoring, and then there's a lost line out, which ultimately is full time. But like, Ireland had 66% territory, 65% possession. France made 273 tackles to Ireland's 105. I guess if you were to pinpoint where they fell short, just in the 22 or with ball in possession, not even necessarily not clinical, not creative enough at times, and that's probably, France able to score tries out of nothing, and did. It's still a very, very good kind of account of themselves within a score, and could have won it at the death, but they'll feel very disappointed.
Yeah, their 22 entries versus points accrued from those was really, really low. I think they averaged like 0.6 points per 22 entry, and France was a good deal higher than that. As you mentioned, like, just on half time, not getting that try would have been like, to go 20-0 up or 18-0 up at that stage. Like, it was like a GA match in the league under the new rules when the wind was so decisive. Like, you turned it on, like, the French could not kick the ball. They couldn't clear the ball from their own territory. And the wind seemed to subside a bit in the second half as well. So it actually wasn't kind of even more advantageous for Ireland, potentially. It's funny because the tactics that worked, that seemed very, I suppose, rudimentary against New Zealand, like Dan O'Brien's lettering the ball, worked a treat in those conditions. The French just couldn't get to grips with Dan O'Brien's kicking game. But yeah, like, France has had that bit more about them. Like, they're offloading their pace, their power. Like, when they built up a head of steam, they were quite hard to stop. Like, to be fair to Ireland, like, they only conceded 18 points. Their defence has been very leaky in the pool stages, and it's a classic cliche. Like, but like, that was a very good outing for them. Like, that was a very good account of themselves. Obviously, when the game was there to be won, they didn't score in the second half, as you said. Like, to go 35 phases and not score was a huge missed opportunity. And then obviously there's some controversy of the biting. Like, even the way the game ended, I might touch on in a minute, because I think it highlights a real flaw in the rugby laws. But yeah, like, there's a lot going on there. But yeah, massive missed opportunity. Like, they had France on the rack, and did they deserve to win? I'm not sure. If you don't score in the second half, you can say that. But
yeah,
huge opportunity, like a massive opportunity,
big time. On the Biden incident, this was early in the second half, and Axel Bartholomew has been cited. So, have you seen the clip of this?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's mad.
Aoife Wafer, hands in a ruck, and I mean, I wouldn't say Axel tried to disguise what she was doing. She just had a good old chomp. And Wafer was like at the referee, she bit me.
Yeah, it's so clear lip reading.
But there's a degree of, I think she bit me. She bit me. How is that not picked up?
No idea.
Yeah.
It begs the question. I think, like, this is a marquee tournament. They've made it the men's World Cup and the women's World Cup to have parity. They don't want to have it as the World Cup for the men. Why are we not getting the best officials in the world working at this tournament?
Totally.
Why are we getting a group of officials who, if the men's World Cup started tomorrow, Holly Davidson is the only one who would be considered, and she would probably be a lines running the line. That's just bizarre to me. Like, if you watch one of the women's World Cup games for a half, you will see, not that we give away refereeing plenty in the men's game too, but you will see a lot of decisions that you're kind of like, God, how is that not being penalised? Or why would they miss that? Or how do they miss this? So that's the starting point. Because, to be fair, to counter what I'm just saying, like, the TMO yesterday was a guy called Ian Tempest, who referees in the Premiership week in, week out, the men's Premiership. So, like, it's not as if he's some sort of, like, newbie or who wouldn't know. I guess, like, and it was brought to the attention of the referee. So I don't know is the answer. Like, it's just a baffling missed, because there was clear footage of it. It's not as if it was one of these things where it was unsighted. Like, it was clear as day what was going on. Just a massive mistake. And, like, she'll get probably a decent ban now, but, like, that would have been 14 men for 20-minute red card. So what? 20 minutes, but that's significant in a game that was decided by a very narrow margin. So just baffling how it was missed, to be honest. And I just think it really shines a light on why isn't the Women's World Cup getting the best officials in the game for this tournament.
Yeah. Only one player of the Irish squad of 32 had experienced a World Cup before. Like, they are a young team, so 4 years' time, etc. But definitely feels disappointing this week. England awaiting in the semi-final would have been tough. I mean,
yeah, you
don't want to be defeatist about it, but maybe in some respects you dodge a bit of a
It would have been a great selling point, though, to get it.
It would.
To be the first Irish team to win a World Cup quarter final would have been a nice little hook.
And you get third, fourth place playoff. You're there till the end.
Yeah, you're there till the end, and it feels like you have taken a step, because England are clearly light years ahead of everyone else. New Zealand probably just behind them, but if you can beat France, and they almost did in the Six Nations, you know that you are definitely not too far away from the upper echelons, if not the very ultimate. But I just want to say one thing about how the game ended. So Ireland had a 5-metre line out. The ball is thrown in. The French player throws one hand across and just knocks it forward. Knock on, game over. Like, that's you should not be penalised for the opposition making a mistake. No. We usually see the game ending in that scenario where the Irish player would knock on with ball in possession. That's a fine way to end the game. The idea that France are allowed to knock the ball on when Ireland have a 5-metre line out, and that is the end of the game, I think needs to be looked at. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen this happen before, because nothing is jumping to my mind in the opposition knocking a ball on and it not being given as a deliberate knock on. I would argue that is a deliberate knock on. She has no chance of legally claiming the ball back the way she goes up and swats it forward. And I would have just liked to have seen that maybe looked at. I know you never see that at a line-out, because usually they're trying to contest possession. It's in the middle of the field. You're not going to be given penalties for that, nor should you en masse. But when it's the last play of the game, and a 5-metre line-out, and the French player was like no attempt really to get it back on her own side, I just thought it was a curious thing, and I just don't like the way the game can end with the opposition knocking it on. That's not a just way to end a game.
If you commit a foul, we're playing on here.
Yeah, that should be. I can't remember a time I've seen a match end like that where the opposition team has kind of knocked it on. So I think it's just a loophole in the rules that needs to be looked at.
No, absolutely. By the way, news just in. I'm sort of surprised. I thought this was going the other way, but Jack Neinaber is staying at Leinster until 2027. There was much speculation that he'd head back and they'd put the band back together for the World Cup of 27. But he's staying with Leinster until 27. So. Along with Robin McBride, Tyler Blindell, there till 27. Leo Cullen himself signed a contract last November until 2027. So they're sticking together. Where I thought after the Northampton game, where psychology was being talked about a lot, and Jacques Neinaber did a press conference and he was being asked about this, and he was kind of like, "Look, I just coach defence. None of that other stuff is anything to do with me." Despite the many documentaries where I'm clearly massively talking psychology to the team, none of that's anything to do with me. I thought there's something off in the camp here.
Yep.
But no, he's staying.
It was a strange end to the season. Like, he's professing that he's only the defence coach. Well, the defence got absolutely shredded against Northampton. And I'd be interested if you polled just Leinster supporters generally. Like, are they delighted with this news of another year of the Jack Neinaber era? Because not only have they not won the Champions Cup, they've completely changed their style of play. And while defensively up to that point they looked really strong, they weren't as fluid and cohesive. And while they didn't win the Champions Cup in the last couple of years under Stuart Lancaster, they definitely played great rugby that was enjoyable to watch. And if you're not going to be winning the Champions Cup either way, I'd rather than playing better rugby and having it easier on the eye. But the South African piece is interesting. Obviously, the Rugby Championship at the weekend as well was the gift that keeps on giving. It's been
do you think if it was up to you, Neinaber, to stay, or would you say this ain't working?
I'd keep him for his contract. Would I have given him another year? I don't know. I would have liked to have seen how they got on this year. I personally prefer Leinster playing a more offensive brand of rugby. It didn't deliver the trophy ultimately, and not only did not deliver it, they were shredded in defence. It wasn't as if they lost a tight game with a defensively solid performance and they couldn't score enough. It was they actually scored a good bit, but their defence just couldn't keep Northampton out. So again, we're like I said to you earlier, the United conversations, while their most compelling conversations are also kind of repetitive. Likewise with Leinster, like we'll be doing our season preview, I'm sure, next week. The most compelling story is can Leinster win a Champions Cup? But
this was the worst. I mean, the La Rochelle Sarries defeats, you can legislate for those games. They're great teams, but the Northampton one at home, by a distance, the worst.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree with that.
You mentioned South Africa, New Zealand, so they lost Ellis Park, as everyone does. And then they whacked New Zealand by a record margin at the weekend.
Eden Park, yeah.
Eden Park. What did I say? I said Ellis.
Park,
of course,
I
Eden Park.
Inception that early in the conversation.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. They lost at Eden Park and then whacked them at the weekend.
Yeah, bizarrely, New Zealand's record at Eden Park is like so out of kilter with their record in Wellington. For some reason, Wellington, they've only won 3 of the last 10 games they've played in Wellington. Like, which is just bizarre. Like they're like 90% at every other venue. Just for some reason, Wellington is a particular kind kind of poor stomping ground for them. Yeah, it's been an unbelievable rugby championship. Pretty much every game has been an absolute cracker. It's been the best 4 weeks of rugby sustained, I'd say, ever. Because in a Rugby World Cup where you get the great quarter-final weekend, you have to sit through a lot of turgid non-entity matches to get there, whereas it's just been unbelievable. Like all 4 teams have won 2 and lost 2. All 4 teams have had good moments and bad moments. Like last weekend, South Africa looked an aging, tired team. 11 of the 15 starters in Eden Park being 30 or 30 plus. He rejigged things Razzie a bit this week, dropped Ibanez about completely and kind of infused a little bit more youth. Like the back line was substantially different. Like, you know, you had Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu without half, who's played a bit, but he actually got an early concussion, so didn't get to play a huge amount. Kanan Moody, who's kind of emerged. Damien Willemse had like a breakout performance. He obviously won the World Cup at 15, but he was playing 12 and was absolutely awesome. South Africa are in a really interesting place. That they have still like the core group of guys who won the World Cup, but there's kind of a push-pull about how many young guys Razzie wants to introduce and how many old guys he wants to keep around, but they do look so formidable. Like the ass-kicking they gave the All Blacks in the second half there, like I think it was 41-10, final score was 10-7 at half time, so it was at 34-0 in the second half. Like it was, when South Africa are humming like that, they are absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've had a big change with Tony Brown as well, like the way they want to play, like they want to evolve and tweak things, and it hasn't been overly successful in Springbok supporters' minds. Like when you're so good at doing a route one kind of job, like the idea of opening your game plan up maybe is a little hesitant for some people, but when it looks good, it's like the perfect blend of power and pace. Like we've seen it, say the first 20 minutes against Australia when they lost, they were looking unbelievable. 22-0, they looked absolutely unplayable. And the scoreline was very misleading. They actually could have beaten Australia in that game pretty easily if a few balls had gone to hand that Australia then took back the other way. So maybe they were trying to overplay a little bit. But it's a fascinating time for international rugby. Like Ireland obviously played the All Blacks in Chicago and South Africa and Australia. Very interesting to see how they match up with them, looking at them over the last couple of weeks.
The sheer speed with which you spoke there, that has been pent up over paternity leave. It's like, I need to get this out.
Too quick.
No, it was beautiful.
Slow me down.
No, it was great. It was great. I was like, this is amazing.
I didn't know if you were listening or just like,
I was.
I finished.
No, it's brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant because I just, with things going on, I was away this weekend. I know how good the Rugby Championship is, and I'm not seeing enough of it. I've recorded a bunch of the games, and then hard to go back and get to watch them all. But I know I'm missing out on something spectacular at the moment. I need to just like clear the schedule. The Southern Hemisphere rugby fans must hear us bleating on about the Six Nations, where, like, especially the last couple of years, the Italy games generally are one-sided affairs. The Welsh games are one-sided affairs. Like, there's sometimes one good game a weekend.
Yeah.
They must think, the Six Nations, please.
But it's funny you say that. This is definitely, like, there is no Rugby Championship next year.
Because of the new series.
No, because New Zealand and South Africa are doing their own thing. They're not doing the Rugby Championship. So next year, New Zealand are doing a Lions tour of South Africa in effect. They're playing a 3-test series in all the warm-up games. So Australia and Argentina have actually been cut adrift because up until this year, the quality hasn't been quite as good. Australia have been in the doldrums. Argentina are always feisty, but they wouldn't have that kind of rivalry inbuilt with the other teams that would be appointment viewing necessarily. So now people are obviously looking at it being like, geez, how are we not having this again next year? But we're not. So the Rugby Championship's future in the medium term is very much up in the air because they've already penciled in, so next year's 2026 and 2030, South Africa going to New Zealand to do a Lions kind of esque tour, which on paper does sound unbelievable. Obviously, it'll be compelling, but I don't like the idea of Australia and Argentina then be kind of left to fend for themselves. Yes, there's this new kind of November, summer tournament being put into place, but you need your kind of bedrock tournament as well, like Six Nations or a Rugby Championship too. So,
yeah.
International game is in a bit of flux, like, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. There was an email in, by the way. We've never talked about the enhanced games yet on the show. Hi, lads. Really enjoying the podcast. Long time, first time. I was wondering what the team's take on the enhanced games is. It's such a mad idea, yet something I feel I've always heard people talk about over the years. Just let them at it and see how high a level humans can perform at. On the one hand, you could argue it takes away the suspicion that's already out there of drug taking. Many sports already battle doping scandals. This would take away the secrecy. On the other hand, how big are the health risks for the athletes? Are they going to be monitored by doctors and scientists for safety? What message does it send to younger players and fans? Does it undermine the spirit of sport altogether? Would love to hear your opinions. Keep up the great work, Greg. I think we're generally against the enhanced games. I think that's our official view. No, pretty grim.
I've seen some kind of, long read articles about it and just refuse to click on it. I just don't want to countenance it in any way, shape or form.
I think it's coming though, isn't it, to America? Yeah, since I think there was an about turn once Trump was elected that there's Trump family involvement with it now, so I think it's coming to America. It's going to happen.
Do people? I'd love to know. Do people, our listeners, would any of them have much of an interest? I'm with Connor. I don't even engage with it because it sounds so stupid and dangerous, and like I don't really care how fast can someone run if they're doped up to the gills.
Like, how fast can you run if you're wearing rollerblades? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing. Who cares? Like,
Yeah,
that I'd watch.
yeah, the enhanced rollerblade games.
yeah. No, I it's insanity, Greg. Obviously, it's insanity. I think everyone thinks it's insanity, but maybe not. World Athletics, shout out to Fionnuala McCormick, who's like low key, under the radar excellence continues. Finished 9th in the women's marathon at the World Championships in Tokyo. She ran 2:30.16. Had no idea she'd finished 9th until she crossed the line. So just amazing. Charlene Maudsley has qualified for the semi-final in the 400 metres, one of the fastest qualifiers. Cool moment as she saw that happen live on TV. It was captured by the cameras. Just today, Andrew Coscoran produced Performance of His Life to reach the 1500 metres final, which is amazing, from Balbriggan. 5th place in his semi. So first time in his career he's reached a global outdoor final. That's scheduled for Wednesday night. So World Athletics Championship will do an episode on over the next couple of days for sure. You are heading off to the Ryder Cup imminently? Sunday. Will wanted a Ryder Cup hype temperature check.
Do we have Ryder Cup fever?
I don't.
You don't?
Do you?
I think it'll quickly, like...
The Ryder Cup temperature comes on quick though.
That's the thing.
It goes quick. It burns right through. It's a 24-hour thing.
Yeah, it's a very, very big thing.
It's not a long sickness.
I'm racking my brains for like an actual sickness to compare it with.
It's a vomiting bug. You just can't think of anything else for a while.
No, there was fair bit of talk about it over the weekend because of Wentworth
and all the Americans played on the PGA Tour last night as well.
No, I think 11 of them. Or sorry, I think there was 2 missing.
As good as though.
Yeah.
In comparison to 2 years ago when they didn't play for weeks.
Yeah, and all the Europeans other than Rasmus Højgaard made the cut, who spectacularly didn't make the cut at Wentworth. So we mightn't see too much of the Bell Rasmus, although he'd be a good man for a 4-ball. I was just kind of looking through it there. I was looking out for the performer Shane Lowry over the weekend. He had a bad double bogey on 17 yesterday, so it didn't really kind of feature. But his game is solid enough. You know, it's such a very high emotion tournament that I'm not sure the value of form, unless your game is completely gone and you can't get a grasp of it, you're definitely not going to find it when you're there. But I think there's a lot of adrenaline, there's a lot more adrenalised golfers in the Ryder Cup than anywhere else.
I think it suits him for a few different reasons. Like the thing with Shane, you have to say, is Shane has quietly over the last 3-4 years become one of the best ball strikers in the world, which is never really talked about Shane Magic Hands short game, but he's become one of the best ball strikers on tour. Where Shane can get down on himself, in my opinion, it could be wrong, is when he senses the putter is cold, and it can be up and down with him. But obviously in Ryder Cup in particular, especially team event, like you miss a putt, it doesn't cost you a stroke necessarily on the leaderboard, or someone can dovetail in and make a putt, and so you can walk off the green feeling great, even though you've just missed a putt. Where stroke play, you'd be berating yourself all the way to the next tee box. So I think it takes the pressure off his putting in a way, and even like in foursomes, he's not necessarily even putting every hole. So I think that's a kind of psychologically, I feel like his game is less like, how am I putting this week? And so then that almost frees him up, and he can hold some absolute amazing. Remember the famous one at Whistling Straits on the Saturday, and his dad was running down off the hill behind him. So there's that, and then you just plug him into team environment where he's fired up, and so I think he's out of his head more. So he thinks he's just made for it, you know, for all those reasons.
Sounds like Ryder Cup fever to me, Joe.
Oh my God, I've just had my first.
So Shane, in his 2 previous Ryder Cup appearances, has never played foursomes. He's never played 4-ball, the alternate shot format. He's only played
foursomes.
He's only played foursomes, which is the alternate shot. And I was looking at his stats there. He finished 4th on the PGA Tour for ball striking this year, behind Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland and Colin Morikawa, which is the elite ball strikers in the game. So he is in the top 5 or 6 for 175 to 200 yards. He's in the top 7 or 8 for 200 yards to 225. So he is an absolute automatic choice in foursomes, right? Because you need somebody who's not going to waste that shot from the fairway. It's going to be a big, long course. Now, the worry for Shane is that his partner, Sepp Straka, was the one player who wasn't in Wentworth because he recently had a child, so he's only linking up with the team
It's
this
new,
week.
new perspective.
He's a
He's
new
not building his
perspective.
brand.
Yeah, he's building his brand.
He won't get off Twitter at the moment. So.
But I agree with you, Shane, about Shane's putting as well. In match play, you're not racked with the anxiety of what if I put it 6 feet past.
That too, yeah.
You know, you get the putt or you don't get the
Gotta
putt
go.
in most of the situations. So I kind of hope that he gets picked more often. I think we need Shane on the course the whole time because he's going to be one of the most emotive European players out there.
But sorry, when he doesn't play, he's also one of the most emotive European players out there.
Yeah, well,
he practically was jumping in for Rory with caddy Joe LaCava that
Yeah,
time.
and they revealed yesterday that in preparation for the reception they're getting in Betpage that the European Ryder Cup team have been wearing VR headsets to confect the atmosphere that they're going to be.
Saw this. So I think Rory was saying before they handed over the VR headset, they asked him, how mean do you want the comments to be? And Rory said, give me 10 out of 10 meanness. So I don't know what they put in there.
Yeah.
Are they programmed? Are there like private ones where like your family member's
personalised.
name is known and like it's all this kind of stuff?
But that's what they're going to get. So I only assume if you're going to do something like that, you may as well do it properly. So
It's interesting that, isn't it?
it's very interesting. Yeah, like we remember years ago there was a story. I don't know, did they come out and say it was true or did they confirm it was true? But that Cillian O'Connor was practicing freeze with earphones on, and they had the noise from the hill and all that sort of stuff.
Someone threw a GPS at him as well. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good way to spend the next week. With
Your headset's abusing you? I don't
abusing
think
you.
so.
I would. I'm no Gary Keegan, but I would think get yourself into a very positive mindset and build the foundations of that and the wall of that and build that up. Have that strong. Not a week of being terrorized by a VR headset. Like, think of what insult if I said to you now would just register. Think of it. I bet you something came to your head. Imagine in the VR headset you put that on and they picked out that thing and you'd be like, are they all thinking this?
All of a sudden, you're holding in your stomach walking.
There you go. There you go. Okay, that's a perfect example.
It's not that great. Is it?
Then you're like, did AI come up with this or did Eduardo Molinari over there put that in? It's a terrible idea.
I like the idea that Eduardo Molinari, the guy who has the very detailed plan because he's one of golf's great analysts, has sort of confected all these, like, you know, trying to figure out what are these people most self-conscious about.
I don't know. I'd be going the other way. I'd have a VR headset of all the great things about you.
We don't need VR headsets. Let's just leave the VR headset up to the side.
But I'd have positive affirmations and, you know, Connor, you're amazing.
But they're gone over.
Is the atmosphere going to be poisonous?
Yeah,
Like,
poisonous. Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
It was
kind of Tassarai Fenerbahce.
yeah, it was poisonous.
Well,
it was poisonous
Golf's version.
in Whistling Straits 4 years ago, and that was with a smaller crowd because of COVID restrictions. It was 2021.
Was it poisonous?
Yeah, it was really poisonous. Yeah, Lowry said afterwards, I think that one of his members of his family was abused. Some of the stuff that McElroy, I know that I was now talking to journalists that they almost, there was an unsaid pact that they weren't going to
Report
the specifics of it because it was just so.
And did you get the sense that was 1% of dopes or like a good portion of the crowd?
I wasn't there, but it does seem that there was enough that it got through to the players.
Okay.
And all it takes, because it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy here. Like, people are saying, well, it's going to be the New York crowd and they're famously raucous and there's going to be drink on board. And it's a monkey see, monkey do. Like, the first person who says something utterly obnoxious or, you know, all that real attention-seeking stuff that you tend to find in America, and particularly in New York at sports events, like, it spreads like wildfire.
Is it the team element that makes the crowd turn into the fact that they're supporting USA?
Yeah.
Because, like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they just be like complete raucous Egypt? Like,
It's the team. It's country.
okay.
Yeah.
It's just become a thing. It is, I'd say, ever since Medina, really. Like, it has been.
Well, I guess you go back to War by the Shore. They bloody wore like armed forces clothing and stuff.
What's like did they play like the President's Cup when they play like the rest of the world or something?
Yeah.
Did the fans go?
No.
Was there any else getting penalties back in the day?
No, it's hard to get too exercised as
Because-
you're kicking the absolute shit out of them. You know what I mean? Like it's like, the rest of the world have lost 10-0 again. It's, you know, stop shooting him. He's already dead, kind of thing. You know.
It's funny because obviously, like, winning a Ryder Cup in America, you know, it wouldn't compare with like a major for a player, obviously, but shutting up that American crowd would be immensely satisfying. Just from that point of view.
Yeah.
I'd say after winning a major, winning a Ryder Cup on American soil would be the next thing that any of them would. I would think so.
It has grown in stature because it's become so elusive for both teams. Neither team can win away from home.
But I feel like, if you said, the Miracle in Medina, like, name the 12 guys, would people be able to get more than 5 or 6? Probably not. It's not as if it gives you iconic status, really. Like, it's like maybe it does, but, there's probably lesser known players in that team that people just completely forget.
No, I know what you mean.
Just on the kind of build-up and on Lowry again, I'm absolutely certain that there isn't an American player, isn't even an American person other than maybe Keegan Bradley, who has thought quite so much about the Ryder Cup as Lowry has. He's been talking about it and he's been thinking about it every day.
Yeah.
And that's not nothing. And I just don't know yet whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Whether you're, when you build yourself up to something so much that when it happens, you're not exactly sure how you're going to react.
Put the VR headset thing away for a start, mate. That's not going to help. Let's name the team of 12. Go. It's just trade names.
From
2012 Medina. Come on.
Keimer.
Sergio.
Are we all doing this?
Well, why can't I do it?
I don't know. Okay, you can do it then.
Why do I just sit here in silence? Like, it was my idea.
Sorry, it's your idea. Right,
So no, look.
Keimer, Sergio. Okay, Rory, back to you.
Molinari, the one who won the Open. Which one? Francesco? Yeah.
Come on.
Poulter.
Paul Lowry.
McDowell.
Harrington.
Justin Rose.
Paul Lowry wasn't on it.
Padraig Harrington wasn't on it.
Paul Lowry wasn't on it.
I think he was.
In Medina.
In Medina.
I don't know if he was.
This is like that time you corrected me over erstwhile. It's going to come back and bite you. Let's finish on that. One of us is going to be really right and really wrong.
I think Victor Dubuisson might have been there.
No, he was in 14.
Oh, 14 yeah.
Damn it.
Picked the wrong fight here, Will. Right, let's wrap up. You actually have to go.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah. Welcome back.
thank you. Good to be back.
Good to see you, Will.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks very much. We won't see you. We'll talk to you over there. We won't see you again.
You tell me.
Okay. We'll talk to you over there. All right.